Admiral Vexithari stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty Eternal Conquest. His 4 eyes studied the holographic display showing the outer rim of the galaxy. Strange signals had been coming from that area for months now. The signals were weak and primitive, but they were clearly from an intelligent species. "Admiral," called his communications officer, a thin Zephyrian with purple skin. "We have decoded more of their transmissions. They call themselves humans and their home system is called Sol." Vexthari's mandibles clicked together in amusement. Another primitive species to add to the empire. In his 300 years of service, he had conquered 47 different worlds. This would be number 48. "What do we know about their technology?" he asked. "Very basic, sir. They use chemical rockets and primitive nuclear fusion. Their largest ships appear to be no bigger than our scout vessels. Intelligence estimates. They have barely reached their neighboring planets." The admiral's chest swelled with pride. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled 847 star systems for over 3,000 years. They had conquered every species they had ever met. These humans would be no different. "Send the 3rd Scout Fleet to investigate," Vexthari ordered. "Standard protocol. Assess their capabilities, then begin annexation procedures." 3 weeks. Later, the first reports came back from the Outer Rim. Captain Zulmar of the scout ship Swift Death transmitted his findings to the Admiral. "Sir, we have made contact with the human vessels. They appear to be exploration ships and colony transports, very lightly armed. We engaged 3 of their larger vessels and captured them easily." Vexithari nodded. This was going exactly as expected. "Any resistance?" "Minimal, sir. Though I must report something strange. The human prisoners keep talking about their real navy and asking when their main fleet will arrive. They seem to think these ships we captured are not military vessels." The Admiral laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Typical primitive psychology. They cannot accept defeat, so they create fantasies about hidden fleets. Continue with standard procedures." Over the next few days, more scout ships reported similar encounters. Human vessels were scattered throughout several star systems, all easily defeated. The ships carried scientists, miners, and families. Their weapons were simple and clearly not designed for real warfare. During interrogation, the human prisoners all told the same story. They claimed to be civilians. They said their exploration ships and colony vessels were not part of their military. When asked about their defenses, they spoke casually about something called the Earth Defense Force and mentioned that their real warships were still back home. Intelligence Officer Kex Thule presented his analysis to the Admiral. "Sir, the humans appear to suffer from severe delusions. They consistently claim that we have not yet encountered their actual military forces. They speak of ships called Dreadnoughts and battle cruisers, as if these are common things in their fleet." "Fear makes primitives say strange things," Vexithari replied. "What matters is that we have seen their capabilities. These humans are even weaker than the Greltons were, and we conquered them in 6 days. The captured humans were moved to prison, ships for transport to the Empire's slave worlds. But even in captivity, they remained strangely calm. One human female, who claimed to be a xenobiologist, actually seemed excited to meet the Zephyrians. "This is fascinating," she told her guards. "Wait until Earth Command hears about this. A whole galactic empire, though I really hope they send diplomats before the fleet arrives. Violence is so wasteful." The guards reported this to their superiors, who dismissed it as the babbling of a defeated enemy. Meanwhile, the Empire began its standard annexation procedures. Supply ships moved toward human space, carrying the materials needed to build administrative centers on human worlds. The Emperor himself was informed of the new conquest and approved the usual policies. The humans would be classified as a servant species and put to work in the Empire's factories and mines. But as the Empire's forces moved deeper into human space, they began to encounter more resistance. The humans had scattered their people across dozens of systems, and each group fought fiercely despite having inferior weapons. A mining colony on an asteroid somehow destroyed 2 Imperial frigates before being overwhelmed. A scientific research station used experimental weapons that burned through Imperial shields like they were made of paper. Even civilian transport seemed to carry more firepower than expected. Captain Mordek reported from the human system they called Alpha Centauri. "Admiral, these humans fight strangely. They do not surrender when clearly beaten. Their civilian vessels ram our ships when their weapons fail. And sir, they have industrial facilities here that are much larger than we expected for such a primitive species." "How large?" Vexathari asked. "The asteroid mining operations appear to process more raw materials in one day than most of our core worlds produce in a month. And sir, we found construction yards building ships. Big ships, much larger than anything we have captured so far." This information troubled the admiral. Primitive species were not supposed to have such advanced industrial capabilities. But the evidence was clear. These humans were more developed than their simple technology suggested. The most disturbing report came from Commander Telvash, who had captured a human ship called the Scientific Endeavor. The ship's database contained star charts showing human activity across hundreds of light years. These were not the maps of a species that had barely left their homeworld. "Sir," Telvash reported, "according to these records, humans have been exploring this region of space for over 50 years. They have colonies, research stations, and industrial facilities in more than 30 star systems. This is a much larger operation than we initially believed." Vexathari studied the reports in his private chambers. Something was wrong with this conquest. The humans were supposed to be primitive, but their industrial capacity suggested otherwise. They were supposed to be weak, but they fought with surprising effectiveness. Most concerning of all, every human prisoner still insisted that the Empire had not yet faced their actual military. The admiral decided to send a message to the Emperor, requesting additional forces. As he dictated the report, he found himself thinking about something one of the human prisoners had said. The human, a young male who claimed to be a graduate student in astrophysics, had laughed when told about the mighty Zephyrian Empire. 800 star systems, that's cute. You guys are going to be so surprised when the defense force shows up. I just hope they don't bring the heavy stuff. The diplomats are still trying to arrange a peaceful meeting." At the time, Vexathari had dismissed this as meaningless chatter. But now, looking at the evidence of human industrial capacity and their casual confidence even in defeat, he began to wonder. What if the humans were telling the truth? What if the Empire really had not yet encountered their military forces? The admiral shook his head. Impossible. The Empire had conquered nearly 1,000 species over 3 millennia. They knew how to recognize military capability. These humans were just another primitive race with delusions of grandeur. But as he sent his report to the Emperor requesting reinforcements, Vexathari could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The humans were too calm, too confident, too well prepared for a species that had supposedly just been discovered. In the prison ships, the human captives continued to speak of their real fleet with casual certainty. They acted like people waiting for rescue, not like a conquered species facing slavery. And in the back of his mind, Admiral Vexathari began to suspect that perhaps this conquest would not be as simple as he had believed. 2 months into the human campaign, Admiral Vexathari received reports that made no sense. The humans were supposed to be defeated. Their primitive ships had been easily destroyed, their colonies captured, their people imprisoned. Yet somehow, human resistance was getting stronger, not weaker. "Explain this to me again," the admiral demanded as he stood before the holographic display in his war room. Commander Telvash pointed to a series of red markers scattered across the human territories. "Sir, these incidents occurred in the past. Week alone. A human vessel called the Asteroid Miner 7 destroyed the heavy cruiser Dark Victory. A ship identified as the University Research Vessel Hawking disabled 3 of our destroyers using some kind of energy weapon we have never seen before." Vexathari's 4 eyes narrowed. "These are civilian vessels?" "According to their identification, signals, yes, sir. The Asteroid Miner 7 was transporting processed metals when it engaged our forces. The crew consisted of miners and their families. The research vessel was conducting experiments on stellar phenomena." "How does a mining ship destroy a heavy cruiser?" Telvash looked uncomfortable. "The humans appear to have modified their civilian ships extensively. The mining vessel used its ore processing equipment as a weapon, creating a beam of superheated plasma that cut through our hull armor. The research ship. We are still analyzing the wreckage, but it appears they weaponized their scientific instruments. The Admiral felt a cold sensation in his stomach. In 300 years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that could turn civilian equipment into effective weapons so quickly. The humans seemed to view everything as a potential tool of war. More disturbing reports followed. Captain Zulmar transmitted from the human system called Ross 128. His voice carried a tone of confusion that Vexthari had never heard from the veteran officer. "Admiral, we engaged what appeared to be a human colony transport. The ship was clearly marked as carrying families and supplies to a new settlement. But when we moved to capture it, the vessel somehow split into 3 separate ships, each armed with weapons that matched our destroyers." "A transport ship split apart?" "Yes, sir. Intelligence analysis suggests the humans build their civilian vessels with detachable sections that can operate independently. The colonists were not helpless passengers. They were trained pilots and gunners disguised as civilians." Vexithari began to pace his command deck. This made no sense according to Imperial knowledge of primitive species. Civilians were supposed to be helpless. They were supposed to surrender when faced with superior military force. They were not supposed to fight back with improvised weapons and clever tactics. The most confusing report came from Captain Mordek at the Human Research Station in the Kepler system. The station had been identified as a scientific facility studying binary stars. It should have been an easy target for capture. "Sir, the research station was not what it appeared to be. When we approached, it activated defenses that, well, I have never seen anything like them. They created some kind of artificial gravity well that pulled our ships off course, then hit us with focused beams of stellar radiation. They weaponized a star?" "It appears so, sir. The humans at the station claim they were just conducting experiments on stellar manipulation. They say they never intended to fight us, but when we attacked, they used their research equipment to defend themselves." The Admiral stood in silence for several minutes. His mandibles clicked nervously as he processed this information. The Empire had detailed protocols for conquering primitive species. None of those protocols included procedures for dealing with civilians who could turn scientific equipment into superweapons. Intelligence Officer Kexthul approached with another troubling report. "Sir, we have analyzed the human databases recovered from captured vessels. The information is concerning." "How concerning?" "The humans appear to have industrial capacity far beyond what we initially estimated. Their asteroid mining operations produce more raw materials than some of our core worlds. Their research facilities conduct experiments that our own scientists would consider impossible. And sir, there are references to ships and weapons we have not yet encountered." Kexthul activated a holographic display showing excerpts from human databases. The humans classify their vessels into categories: civilian, commercial, research, and military. Everything we have fought so far falls into the first 3 categories. We have not yet encountered a single ship classified as military. Vexithari stared at the display. "Are you telling me that mining ships and research vessels have been destroying our warships?" "Yes, sir. And according to these databases, the human military uses completely different technology. There are references to plasma cannons, gravitational torpedoes, and something called Planet Killer class Dreadnoughts." The Admiral felt his confidence beginning to crack. Could the human prisoners have been telling the truth? Was it possible that the Empire had been fighting civilians this entire time? A new transmission arrived from the human home system. The signal was strong and clear, nothing like the primitive communications the Empire had initially intercepted. A human female appeared on the main screen, wearing what appeared to be formal diplomatic clothing. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chen of the United Earth Government," the human said calmly. "I am requesting an immediate meeting with the highest-ranking Imperial official in this region to discuss the current situation." Vexithari accepted the communication. The human looked directly at him with no sign of fear or respect. This was unusual behavior for a member of a conquered species. "I am Admiral Vexthari of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your forces immediately and submit to Imperial authority." The human ambassador smiled slightly. "Admiral, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Your forces have been attacking our civilian population for the past 2 months. Our exploration teams, mining operations, and research stations have been forced to defend themselves using improvised weapons and emergency protocols. Your civilians have destroyed dozens of Imperial warships. Yes, I imagine they have. Humans tend to be resourceful when threatened. But Admiral, this situation needs to end before it escalates further. Our civilian population is becoming increasingly concerned, and there is growing pressure on our government to respond with military force. Vexithari laughed, the sound echoing through the bridge. You threaten us? Your primitive technology is no match for the Imperial fleet. Ambassador Chen's expression remained calm. Admiral, I want to be very clear about something. You have not yet encountered our military technology. Everything your forces have faced, every ship destroyed, every weapon that surprised you, has been improvised by civilians using mining equipment, research tools, and emergency defense systems. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to verify it with your own intelligence analysis. Check the databases from the ships you have captured. Examine the equipment your forces have faced. You will find that we are telling the truth. The human ambassador leaned forward slightly. Admiral, our Earth Defense Force has been monitoring this situation with increasing concern. Our deep space fleet has been recalled from exploration missions in other galaxies, and our Dreadnought Corps is currently discussing whether this situation requires a full military response. Vexithari felt a chill run through his body. The way the human spoke with such casual confidence reminded him of something. She sounded like Imperial officers discussing the conquest of a primitive world, certain of victory, almost bored by the prospect of an easy fight. What are you proposing? He asked, his voice less certain than before. Immediate cessation of hostilities against our civilian population, withdrawal of Imperial forces from human space, and formal negotiations between our governments to establish peaceful relations. And if we refuse? Ambassador Chen was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice carried a tone that made the Admiral's skin crawl. Admiral, I really hope you will not refuse. Our civilian population has done remarkably well defending themselves with improvised weapons and emergency protocols. But if our actual military becomes involved, the situation will become much more serious for everyone. The transmission ended, leaving Vexithari staring at the empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. But for the first time in his long career, the Admiral was not sure what those orders should be. Admiral Vexithari stood in the intelligence analysis chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing captured human technology. What he saw there challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare and civilization. Show me the mining. Ship again, he ordered. Intelligence Officer Kexthul activated a 3-dimensional model of the vessel that had destroyed the heavy cruiser Dark Victory. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of an Imperial destroyer, but its design was clearly industrial rather than military. As you can see, sir, the vessel's primary systems are designed for asteroid processing. These massive drills are used to break apart rock formations. These furnaces process raw ore into refined metals, and these plasma conduits. Kexthul paused, his purple skin darkening with embarrassment. These plasma conduits, which the humans used to destroy our cruiser, are normally used to melt and shape processed metals. Vexithari studied the display in silence. The weapon that had killed 300 Imperial sailors was nothing more than industrial equipment used in an unexpected way. What about their defenses? The ship's hull is reinforced to withstand asteroid impacts and solar radiation. It was not designed as armor, but it proved more effective than our own warship plating. The humans also used their cargo containers as improvised shields and their mining drones as attack craft. The Admiral moved to the next display, showing the research vessel that had disabled 3 destroyers. This ship was even more disturbing to examine. The University research vessel Hawking was conducting experiments on stellar phenomena, Kexthul explained. Its primary equipment includes devices for manipulating electromagnetic fields, studying gravitational anomalies, and analyzing stellar radiation. When attacked, the crew used these instruments to create weapons our forces could not defend against. They turned scientific equipment into superweapons? Yes, sir. And according to the ship's databases, this was not planned. The crew consisted of university professors and graduate students. They had no military training, they simply adapted their tools to the situation. Vexthari felt a growing sense of dread as he moved through the displays. Each captured human vessel told the same story. Civilians with no military experience had defeated Imperial warships using nothing but creativity and determination. The most disturbing discovery came when Kexthul showed him the human databases they had recovered. The information contained within challenged every assumption the Empire had made about these strange beings. Sir, the humans appear to organize their society very differently from other species we have encountered. According to these records, their civilian population receives extensive technical education. A typical human miner understands physics and engineering at a level that matches our own military specialists. How is that possible? Their education system, sir. The humans apparently believe that all citizens should understand science and technology. Even their artists and writers study mathematics and engineering. This explains how they were able to weaponize civilian equipment so effectively. Vexthari studied a display showing human industrial capacity. The numbers were staggering. These production figures cannot be correct. We have verified them multiple times, sir. The human asteroid mining operations process more raw materials in 1 month than the Empire's 3 largest industrial worlds produce in a year. Their manufacturing capacity is beyond anything we have in our databases. How many ships can they build? Kexthul's expression became even more troubled. According to these records, sir, the humans can construct a vessel the size of our heavy cruisers in approximately 6 days. Their largest shipyards can build multiple such vessels simultaneously. The admiral sat down heavily in his command chair. The implications were terrifying. If the humans could build ships faster than the Empire could destroy them, then this war was already lost. Show me their military classifications, Vexthari ordered, dreading what he might learn. The holographic display changed, showing excerpts from human military databases. What Vexthari saw there made his blood freeze in his veins. The humans organized their vessels into clear categories. Civilian ships were for exploration, research, and industry. Commercial vessels handled trade and transportation, and then there were the military classifications: patrol craft, frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battleships, carriers, and something called Dreadnoughts. We have not encountered a single vessel from the military categories, Kexthul reported, quietly. Everything we have fought, every ship that has surprised us, every weapon that has confused us, has been civilian or commercial. What about these Dreadnoughts? The database contains very little information about them, sir. There are references to Planet Killer class Dreadnoughts and Deep Space Exploration Dreadnoughts, but no technical specifications. The humans appear to classify this information as highly secret. Vexthari stood and walked to the main display, which showed a map of human space. Red markers indicated Imperial forces, while blue markers showed human activity. What he saw there confirmed his worst fears. They are not fighting us with everything they have, he said quietly. No, sir. According to communications intercepts, the human military is still debating whether to respond to our attacks. Their civilian government is trying to resolve this situation through diplomacy. And if diplomacy fails? Kexthul activated another display showing intercepted human communications. Sir, we have decoded several transmissions between human colonies and their homeworld. The civilians are requesting military assistance, but they have been told to hold out a little longer, while diplomatic solutions are pursued. One particular transmission made Vexthari's hands shake as he read it. A human colony administrator had sent a message to Earth saying, "The Empire's forces are not as advanced as we initially feared. Our mining ships and research vessels are handling the situation for now, but please advise if we should request support from the Defense Force." The reply from Earth was even more disturbing. Continue defensive operations with available resources. Military intervention has been authorized if necessary, but prefer to resolve this through diplomatic channels. Note that the Dreadnought Fleets remain on deep space missions and should not be recalled unless situation becomes critical. They consider our entire invasion force to be a minor inconvenience, Vexathari said in disbelief. It appears so, sir. There are also references to human military units we have not yet encountered, something called the Earth Defense Force, Solar Navy, and Colonial Marine Corps. And sir, there are mentions of human activity in other galaxies. Other galaxies? Yes, sir. The humans apparently have exploration fleets operating in Andromeda and other nearby galaxies. Their deep space dreadnoughts are described as being on extended patrol beyond local galactic boundaries. Vexathari stared at the display in horror. The Empire controlled less than 1% of their own galaxy and considered themselves the supreme power in the universe. But these humans spoke casually of sending fleets to other galaxies entirely. A new priority transmission arrived from the Outer Rim. Captain Zulmar's voice carried a tone of panic that Vexathari had never heard before. Admiral, you need to see this. We have reached the edge of the human home system, and our long-range sensors are detecting... Sir, there are artificial structures around every planet and major asteroid. The industrial capacity here is beyond anything in Imperial space. The transmission included sensor data that made Vexathari's worst fears seem optimistic. The human home system was surrounded by space, stations, orbital shipyards, and defensive platforms. The energy readings suggested industrial and military capacity that dwarfed anything the Empire had ever seen. Sir, Captain Zulmar continued, we are also detecting thousands of ships in this system. Most appear to be civilian vessels, but there are also formations of ships unlike anything we have encountered. They are very large, sir. Much larger than our dreadnoughts. Vexathari closed all four of his eyes and tried to think. Everything the human prisoners had told them was true. The Empire had been fighting civilians with improvised weapons, and losing. The humans' real military had not even bothered to respond. Yet, sir, Kexthul said quietly. What are your orders? The Admiral looked around the intelligence chamber, surrounded by evidence of humanity's true capabilities. For the first time in his 300-year career, he honestly did not know what to do. Send a message to the Emperor, he said finally. Tell him we need to discuss the human situation immediately. And prepare a communication to Ambassador Chen. It appears we may need to reconsider our approach to this species. As he spoke, Vexathari realized that the Zephyrian Empire's 3,000-year reign of supremacy might be coming to an end. And the most terrifying part was that the humans had not even tried to end it yet. The alert siren screamed through the eternal conquest as Admiral Vexathari rushed to the bridge. His communications officer was frantically trying to establish contact with the Outer Rim scouts. What is happening? The Admiral demanded. Sir, we are receiving emergency transmissions from Captain Zulmar's fleet at the edge of human space. Something has happened to them. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of a badly damaged Imperial bridge. Captain Zulmar appeared on screen, his purple skin pale with shock and his uniform torn. Behind him, Vexathari could see smoke and sparking control panels. Admiral, Zulmar gasped, we have encountered the human military. Vexathari felt his blood turn cold. Report. Sir, we were conducting long-range reconnaissance of the human home system when they arrived. At first, our sensors detected nothing unusual. Then space itself seemed to unfold. Explain. Zulmar's hands shook as he spoke. The humans appeared to be using some kind of faster-than-light technology we have never seen. One moment, empty, space. The next moment, a fleet of ships materialized around us. Sir, their vessels are enormous. Our largest dreadnought would fit inside their smallest ship. The screen switched to external camera footage from Zulmar's ship. Vexathari stared in disbelief at what he saw. The human ships were sleek and graceful, but their size was beyond comprehension. The smallest appeared to be the size of an Imperial space station. The largest stretched so far that the cameras could not capture their full length. How many ships? Vexathari asked. 12 in the first wave, sir. But Admiral, they identified themselves as Patrol Group 7. According to their communications, this is just a routine patrol unit. Vexathari's mandibles clicked nervously. If this was a routine patrol, what did their main fleet look like? We attempted to communicate, Zulmar continued. The human commander was very polite. He identified himself as Commander Jackson of the Earth Defense Force. He asked if we needed assistance, and when we explained that we were scouting for the Imperial fleet, he seemed amused. Amused? Yes, sir, he said, and I quote, "Oh, you must be with the group that's been bothering our civilians. We've been asked to look into that situation." Then he asked if we would like to surrender now, or if we preferred to fight first. The Admiral stared at the screen. The casual confidence in the human commander's words was more terrifying than any threat could have been. "I chose to fight, sir," Zulmar said quietly. "It was not a fight." The screen switched to tactical recordings of the battle. Vexathari watched in horror as the Imperial fleet engaged the human patrol group. The Empire's most advanced weapons struck the human ships and simply disappeared. The energy beams and plasma bolts were absorbed by the human shields without any visible effect. The human response was devastating. Beams of brilliant light reached out from their ships and cut through Imperial hulls like they were made of paper. Entire Imperial cruisers simply ceased to exist, vaporized in seconds by weapons that seemed to manipulate reality itself. "Sir," Zulmar continued, "our weapons had no effect on them, none at all. But their weapons, they destroyed the heavy cruiser Imperial Pride with a single shot. The destroyer's swift vengeance was cut in half by some kind of energy beam, and the battleship Eternal Glory." The captain paused, his voice breaking. "Sir, they made the Eternal Glory disappear. I do not know how to explain it. One moment it was there, the next moment there was just empty space where it had been." Vexathari forced himself to remain calm. "How did you survive?" "The human commander contacted us during the battle. He said he was under orders to minimize casualties and asked if we were ready to surrender. When I agreed, they used some kind of technology to disable our ships without destroying them. Sir, they could have killed us all in the first few seconds of the engagement." "What happened next?" "Commander Jackson came aboard our ship to discuss terms. Admiral, he was wearing no protective gear. He walked through our ship like he was visiting a museum. He seemed genuinely curious about our technology, but also disappointed." "Disappointed?" "He said our weapons and ships were less advanced than expected. He asked if this was truly the best the Empire could field. When I explained that our fleet represented the Empire's most modern warships, he looked sad." Vexathari felt his world beginning to collapse around him. "Did he make any demands?" "He asked us to deliver a message to our superiors. He said the humans were still hoping to resolve the situation peacefully, but that patience was running out. He mentioned that our attacks on human civilians were causing political pressure back home, and that some humans were demanding a more direct response." The screen showed Commander Jackson as he spoke to the captured Imperial officers. The human looked young and relaxed, nothing like the terrifying warrior Vexathari had expected. He spoke to the Imperial captains like a teacher explaining something obvious to confused students. "Your empire has been attacking our civilian population for months," Jackson said calmly. "Our miners, scientists, and colonists have done their best to defend themselves, but this situation cannot continue. We're giving you one last chance to withdraw peacefully before our government decides to take stronger action." "What stronger action?" Captain Zulmar had asked. Jackson's expression became serious. "Captain, what you've seen today is a single patrol group using minimal force. Our main battle fleets are still in home system, and our deep space dreadnoughts haven't even been informed of this situation yet. If this conflict escalates further, things will become much more serious for everyone involved." The recording ended, leaving Vexathari staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders, but the Admiral found himself unable to speak. Intelligence Officer Kex Thul approached with another report. "Sir, we have received additional information from the surviving ships. The human patrol group allowed our forces to scan their vessels during the surrender negotiations. What did the scans reveal?" "Sir, the human ships appear to use technology that is centuries beyond our capabilities. Their power generation systems produce more energy than our largest space stations. Their weapons manipulate matter at the atomic level. And their shields, and our analysts believe their shields could withstand a direct hit from a planet-killer weapon. Vexathari sat down heavily in his command chair. How many humans were aboard those 12 ships? According to the scan, sir, each ship carried between 10 and 50,000 crew members. But Admiral, that is not the most disturbing part. What could be worse? Kex Thule activated a holographic display showing intercepted human communications. Sir, we recorded the human commander's report to his superiors. Commander Jackson described the engagement as routine patrol action against obsolete vessels and recommended that diplomatic solutions be pursued before the situation requires main fleet intervention. The display showed a transcript of Jackson's communication with Earth Command. Patrol Group 7 has neutralized Imperial Scout Fleet with minimal force required. Enemy technology assessed as approximately 3 centuries behind current Earth standard. Recommend continued diplomatic approach before escalation to main battle fleet level. Request confirmation that Dreadnought fleets should remain on deep space missions. The response from Earth Command was equally terrifying. Confirmed. Maintain current posture. Main fleet remains on standby. Dreadnought fleets continue current missions unless situation becomes critical. Political leadership still hopes for peaceful resolution. Vexathari read the transcript 3 times before fully understanding its implications. The human patrol group that had effortlessly destroyed an Imperial fleet was considered barely worth mentioning by Earth Command. Their main fleet had not even been activated, and their most powerful ships, these Dreadnoughts, were apparently busy with missions so important that even a war with the Empire was not worth interrupting them. Sir, his communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. Ambassador Chen is requesting another meeting. Vexathari looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the supreme power in the galaxy. They had conquered every species they encountered and ruled vast regions of space with unquestioned authority. But now they faced an enemy that could destroy their finest warships with casual ease, while treating the entire conflict as a minor diplomatic inconvenience. Accept the transmission, Vexathari ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. Ambassador Chen appeared on the main screen, her expression calm but concerned. Admiral, I believe we need to discuss the situation more seriously now. Our military has become involved, and while they are showing restraint, that restraint will not last indefinitely if attacks on our civilians continue. Vexathari looked at the human ambassador and realized that the Empire's greatest military campaign in centuries had become nothing more than a police action for humanity. And the most terrifying part was that the humans were still trying to be diplomatic about it. Emperor Zekthan sat on his throne in the heart of the imperial capital, staring at the reports that had arrived from the Outer Rim. For the first time in his 800-year reign, he was reading about the defeat of imperial forces. Not just defeat, complete and total annihilation by an enemy that seemed to view the Empire's greatest military effort as a minor inconvenience. Admiral Vexathari stood before the throne, his purple skin pale with exhaustion and defeat. Around them, the Empire's highest officials waited in stunned silence as the full scope of the disaster became clear. Tell me again about these humans, the Emperor commanded. Your Majesty, they are unlike any species we have ever encountered. Their civilian population possesses technological knowledge that rivals our best military specialists. Their industrial capacity exceeds our entire empire's combined output. And their military... Vexathari paused, struggling to find words. Your Majesty, we have not actually seen their military. What destroyed our fleets was identified as a routine patrol group. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. A patrol group destroyed the 3rd and 7th fleets? Yes, Your Majesty. 12 ships, carrying what the humans described as minimal defensive armament. They effortlessly destroyed 47 Imperial warships, including 3 Dreadnoughts, without taking any damage themselves. Chancellor Morthek, the Empire's chief advisor, stepped forward. Your Majesty, our intelligence analysis suggests that humanity possesses technology that is centuries beyond our capabilities. Their weapons appear to manipulate matter at the quantum level. Their shields use gravitational fields we do not understand, And their ships are powered by controlled stellar fusion. What do they want? The Emperor asked. That is the strangest part, Your Majesty. They claim they want nothing from us. They simply wish to be left alone to continue their expansion into unclaimed space. They have offered to share some of their technology for peaceful purposes, and they have proposed establishing formal diplomatic relations. The Emperor stood and walked to the great window overlooking the imperial capital. Below him stretched a city that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. Now it seemed small and primitive compared to what he had learned about human capabilities. Your Majesty, Admiral Vexithari continued, there is something else. The human ambassador is here. She requests an audience to discuss surrender terms. Surrender terms? The Emperor turned back to face his advisors. We are discussing their surrender? No, Your Majesty. She wishes to discuss our surrender. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. In 3,000 years, no one had ever suggested that the Zephyrian Empire might surrender to anyone. Bring her in, the Emperor said quietly. Ambassador Sarah, Chen entered the throne room accompanied by 2 human guards. The guards wore simple uniforms and carried no visible weapons, but their casual confidence suggested they feared nothing in the imperial palace. The ambassador herself looked around the vast chamber with polite interest, like a tourist visiting a historical site. Your Imperial Majesty, she said with a respectful bow, I am Sarah Chen, representing the United Earth Government. I come, hoping to resolve this unfortunate situation peacefully. Emperor Zekthon studied the human carefully. She appeared young and fragile compared to his own species, but she carried herself with absolute confidence. You wish to discuss surrender terms? Yes, Your Majesty, though I hope we can find a solution that preserves dignity for all parties involved. What are your demands? Ambassador Chen smiled slightly. Actually, Your Majesty, our demands are quite modest. We require immediate withdrawal of all Imperial forces from human space, an end to attacks on our civilian population, and establishment of formal diplomatic relations between our governments. The Emperor frowned. That is all? We also request the release of all human prisoners currently held by Imperial forces, compensation for damage done to our civilian facilities, and assurance that such attacks will not be repeated. Chancellor Morthek stepped forward. And what do you offer in return? We offer to forget this unfortunate incident ever happened. We propose a formal peace treaty that establishes clear boundaries between human and Imperial space. We also offer to share certain technologies that might benefit both our civilizations. The Emperor found himself confused by the human's reasonable tone. You could destroy us completely, could you not? Ambassador Chen's expression became serious. Your Majesty, our military assessment suggests that humanity possesses significant advantages in this conflict. However, we prefer peaceful solutions to violent ones. Destroying your empire would serve no useful purpose and would cause tremendous suffering. But you could do it? The ambassador was quiet for several seconds. Your Majesty, I am not a military officer, so I cannot provide detailed assessments. However, I can tell you that our defense force considers this situation to be easily manageable with current resources. Our main battle fleets remain in home system, and our deep space dreadnoughts have not been recalled from their exploration missions. Emperor Zekthon felt his last hopes crumble. Even now, facing the surrender of the galaxy's greatest empire, the humans spoke of their most powerful ships as if they were too busy with other projects to bother with this war. What are these exploration missions? He asked. Our dreadnought fleets are currently conducting surveys in the Andromeda Galaxy and several other nearby galaxies. They are establishing first contact with civilizations in those regions and setting up communication networks for future diplomatic relations. The Emperor stared at the human ambassador. You have ships in other galaxies? Oh yes, Your Majesty. Humanity has been expanding beyond our local galaxy for several decades now. We have encountered many fascinating civilizations. In fact, we recently made contact with a species called the Builders in Andromeda, who have some very interesting construction projects underway. Chancellor Morthek's voice was barely a whisper. What kind of construction projects? I am not certain of the details, Your Majesty, but I believe they involve large-scale engineering projects using entire star systems. Our scientists are very excited about the possibilities for collaboration. The Emperor sat back down on his throne, feeling suddenly very old and very small. The Empire had considered itself the supreme power in the universe, but these humans spoke casually of working with beings who could engineer star systems in other galaxies. What happens if we refuse your terms? He asked. Ambassador Chen's expression remained diplomatic, but her voice carried a subtle change in tone. Your Majesty, I sincerely hope you will not refuse. Our civilian population has shown remarkable patience during this conflict, but that patience has limits. There is growing pressure on our government to respond more decisively. What would a decisive response involve? Our military leaders have prepared several options, Your Majesty. The most moderate involves deploying our main battle fleet to restore order in the affected regions. The more extensive options involve recalling our dreadnought fleets from their current missions. The ambassador paused, letting the implications sink in. Your Majesty, I want to be very clear about something. What your forces have encountered so far represents a tiny fraction of humanity's capabilities. Our patrol groups use older technology and operate under strict rules of engagement designed to minimize casualties. Our main fleet uses much more advanced weapons and operates under different rules. And our dreadnoughts? She shook her head. Your Majesty, I really hope this situation does not require the involvement of our dreadnoughts. Emperor Zekthon looked around his throne room at the faces of his advisors. These beings had helped him rule the largest empire in galactic history. Now they looked like frightened children facing forces they could not comprehend. What are your formal terms? He asked. Ambassador Chen activated a holographic device that displayed a detailed treaty. The Treaty of Titan, Your Majesty. It establishes permanent peace between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire, defines clear territorial boundaries, provides for prisoner exchange and compensation, and creates a framework for future diplomatic and trade relations. The Emperor read through the treaty carefully. The terms were surprisingly generous. Humanity asked for no tribute, demanded no territory within existing imperial space, and even offered technological assistance for peaceful development. Why are you being so reasonable? He asked. You could demand anything you wanted. Ambassador Chen smiled. Your Majesty, humanity learned long ago that lasting peace cannot be built on humiliation and revenge. We want neighbors, not slaves. We want trade partners, not tribute worlds. We want to explore the universe together, not waste time fighting over territory. The Emperor looked at the treaty again, then at his advisors. Chancellor Morthek nodded slowly. Admiral Vexus Thari managed a weak smile of relief. We accept your terms, the Emperor said. As he signed the Treaty of Titan, Emperor Zekthon realized that he was not just ending a war. He was acknowledging that the Zephyrian Empire was no longer the supreme power in the galaxy. That title now belonged to a species that had defeated them so completely that they could afford to be generous in victory.